welcome back to Retail War Games. Today we have an awesome guest, Melanie Cox, CEO of Backcountry.com. Enjoy.
When did you actually move to Utah?
So we moved here 4 years ago.
4 years.
COVID.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
Yeah.
What a time.
Because you didn't want to be stuck in the big city?
No, actually I was on the board of Backcountry, and it was sort of around the beginning of COVID that I became the CEO. So once I became the CEO, I moved here full time because this is where the offices are.
Wow.
Yeah.
One thing that I love doing, like, I tell my kids, because Utah, you always have to, like, plant trees when you, like, you develop a home, and you have to go to a nursery and buy a bunch of trees and plant them. In places like Atlanta, you have to tear the trees out.
Oh.
And my boys don't know that that actually exists, that there's trees that naturally occur in other places. So it's kind of fun. But Park City's beautiful.
Park City's
It's got its natural trees.
Love Park City.
Yeah,
it
isn't
is
it-
spectacular.
So you're a big Olympics fan?
Love the Olympics.
Any
Absolutely.
Specific type of event?
I've always loved the downhill,
Yeah.
you know, all the skiing events, you know, the snowboard events.
So you're a Winter Olympics person?
No, I'm actually both because
Really?
I was a swimmer and a diver, so I love the swimming and the gymnastics. I guess I'm a classic Olympics girl.
Oh,
I actually
that's
like the
really-
boxing
you
in the
can
Olympics.
do it all.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of both because Utah had the Winter Olympics, but summer's like kind of naturally really fun one to watch. You know,
Yeah.
the
I mean, the
sprints
track and
stuff
field
like
is really
track-
cool.
Track and field,
I mean, what's
swimming's
not to
amazing.
like about watching fast people?
Michael Phelps, watching him win everything
Yeah.
for 2 decades, it felt like.
Beach volleyball for me.
Beach
volleyball's
volleyball.
really cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
love-
cool too.
So
Yeah.
the question is will pickleball ever become an
Ooh,
Olympic sport?
great
That's
question.
kind of controversy.
Will
Should it
pickleball
be?
be sponsored by Backcountry?
Well, no. Right now, we don't participate in any sports that involve balls, but you know that could come. Who knows? I don't know.
Are
With
you a
the-
pickleball player? Do you play pickleball?
I have played pickleball.
Do you like it?
I do. I value my Achilles heels, however. So I,
You got your priorities.
I've got my priorities straight.
Good for
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite place to hike in Utah?
I absolutely love. One of my favorite hikes is the Lake Catherine hike.
Oh, yeah.
It's just spectacularly beautiful, and
Yep.
you know, when I have people visit, I'll often, you know, do that hike if we're leaving from Park City.
Yeah.
So that's at the top.
Yeah. Do you ever do Mary's?
Yes. Well, yes.
If you're doing Catherine?
Yeah, you have to pass by Mary to get to Catherine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that you were going to move to Park City, like or did you explore Utah a little bit, or you just had already known?
Well, we had purchased the house for my in-laws about 10 years ago, so it was natural that we were going to be in Park City, and we love Park City. I mean, you know, it's so often when we, you know, come to visit for, you know, skiing or hiking or whatever, we're like, what, you know, wow, we could live here. So,
Yeah.
you know, it just sort of organically happened, which is nice.
Do you do Sundance Film Festival?
I do Sundance Film
ya?
Festival.
Seen any good sneak peeks?
No.
Or back in when's the last time you went?
I didn't go to a film this year.
Not
I went
this
to
year.
a couple of parties, but I
Yeah.
didn't go to any of the
Oh,
films.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite season or favorite month to live in Park City?
Ooh.
Great question.
Probably September.
is
You know,
gorgeous.
the leaves are starting to turn, but the weather's great, clear
Yeah.
blue sky. Love that.
Yeah, it is in college football because you're a college football fan.
Yep.
USC in Texas. So I used to work for the Oklahoma Sooners, and we'd go down
That's
to
a
this.
hard thing for me to
I know.
digest.
The Longhorn.
Actually,
I actually
as a Longhorn fan.
I know. I honestly, for the first time ever, I felt like this bond between the Longhorns because I'm on all these SEC like chat boards, and they're all going after Texas and Oklahoma. I'm like, for the first time ever, I'm like, don't pick on Texas. I never thought I would do that, but I mean, Texas is incredible. Like, just studying their revenue and studying how well that, I mean, everything about it. Like they're almost like a third more profitable than like the next biggest school.
Gosh.
In revenue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a business, not just the sport for them, and
So you-
they really know.
Did you go to Texas?
I did.
Oh, you did. Austin.
I did.
You like living in Austin?
Austin's a great
Pretty
town.
cool spot, yeah.
It's not a town anymore. It's
Not-
pretty much grown up to be a city.
So what's
I've
the
heard
USC
that.
connection?
My daughters went to USC.
Oh, your
Both of my
daughters.
daughters. My son went to Vanderbilt. They don't really claim football as their A sport, but the Trojans do.
What did they go to school before the national championship between Texas, USC, Texas? Who are you cheering for?
Excuse me, I was pulling for Texas.
Vince Young.
Yeah, Vince Young.
Is that big Vince Young, Reggie Bush controversy of who should win the Heisman? And we were just talking about this off there, but Reggie just got his Heisman.
Yep, he sure did.
Pretty remarkable.
Yep. But that was a remarkable game.
Well-
And Texas did win. I just want to remind
They
you.
Yeah.
did.
Put the
That
plug in
was
there.
absolutely incredible, actually. Oklahoma's had kind of a dry spell forever. They always get they're always the top 4 or 5, and then they can never just break through. So, I'm used to it because I was a Jazz fan forever, and I'm just used to just never quite getting there.
It's there, the fire's there,
Yep.
but it's hard
Yeah.
sometimes.
You excited about the NHL? Going to Utah?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for Salt Lake City. I mean, what a great city to have a hockey team, and how lucky for the team that they get to come to Salt Lake.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
It's pretty impressive. So tell me, what was it like growing up in Atlanta?
I mean, Atlanta was great.
Yeah.
I didn't know. You don't really know any different.
Yeah.
But Atlanta's a really great city. It's sort of the capital of the South, and
Oh, yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it's a good spot. Right, but so I think it'd be fascinating for a lot of our listeners to hear how you got into retail. Like, what was the draw? What brought you into retail?
So I'd be lying if I said that there was a plan.
No plan, you kinda-
There really wasn't a plan. I mean, I always loved fashion, and
Yeah.
growing up in Atlanta, I actually got to do a little interim term with the fashion director at Saks, and I loved that. But I never really considered that as a career. I don't know why. And so when I got out of college, I found myself moving to Houston with many of my friends from
Oh, yeah.
Texas, and didn't have a job and didn't have a plan, and I ended up needing to put food on the table, so I went to go work at a department store in the men's suit department on the selling
Okay.
floor. Yes, indeed. That's
What
how
store? What was it?
It was called Sakowitz. It was
Oh.
sort of Houston's version of Neiman Marcus. It was a
wow.
luxury department store. And after I started working there, I found out that they had an executive training program.
No way.
So I applied and got into the training program, and that's how I launched my career.
You're like one of their big
Wow.
success stories from those executive.
I don't know.
This is
I don't know
somebody-
about that.
Yeah,
But,
Oh, no, but really, we've already read your bio.
Yeah,
to
don't
this
pretend
point.
like you.
No,
Yep, we've been studying
this is
that
a
bio.
success story.
So tell us, and this is pretty incredibly impressive, actually. You're almost like, I don't want to say a hired gun because I would just say you're incredibly versatile. The skill set you need to be a CEO and be a CEO from fashion apparel to outdoor, it's pretty remarkable that you can do that, and you've done it so many times. I mean,
I don't know about that.
and I think you are the best dressed person that we've had on this podcast for a while.
I would say so
I think
as
we will
well.
vote on that.
I would say so as well.
Thumbs up.
Yes.
So tell us about the first time you did an interim CEO. Was that with Rue 21?
No, the first time I did an interim after I joined Cerberus, which is a private equity firm.
That's right.
They asked me to go into a company called Rave G&G.
Oh.
So that was sort of the first stint. And what happens with operating executives in private equity firms is they will ask you to go into companies where they have a void in leadership or where they have challenging situations that they need to have figured out.
Yes.
So that was sort of
Yeah, you have
my
a big
charge.
private equity background.
Yes, I've worked with a lot of different private equity firms, to help with diligence and help them, find companies that they may want to invest in, but also help them develop the strategies for existing companies or, help them fix
So,
companies.
love this.
so the private equity firm planted you into one of the companies that they had holdings in, and eventually you just stuck. Is that, or you thought, well,
Well,
I like retail?
Well, I was in retail before private equity.
Oh, okay.
You know, so I had, you know, probably 20 years in retail. I came up through the merchandising side. So I was a buyer.
You were a buyer?
I was a buyer.
okay.
No way.
And my dad thought that was crazy because it's like someone's going to pay you to go
For
to
you
New
to
York
actually
and
do.
shop. Are you kidding me? And yes, Dad, that's exactly what's happening.
Yes.
But yeah, I came up through the merchandising side and, you know, ultimately became the president of Gymboree. And at that point, you know, I took a step back from my career because I'm also the mom of 3 kids.
Oh, congrats.
And, you know, was, you know, sort of, that was always challenging, you know,
Yeah.
to balance both, and was I making the right decision, and so on and so forth. So after I took time off, I actually got a call from a private equity firm. You know, really didn't even understand what they did, but they sort of coaxed me into, you know, coming out of retirement, and, you know, working for them. So that's what I did.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Were your
Yeah.
kids young when you were the president of Gymboree?
Yes.
So you got a lot of good free clothes. I
My
hope.
youngest was, you know, Gymboree age. So
Yeah, Gymboree.
she-
Give me all the Gymboree
she
you got.
She got a lot of
That's
clothes, but
awesome.
my oldest at the time was, you know, probably 10. You know, so well outside of the Gymboree.
Well, that says a lot about you that they would contact you and bring you out of retirement. I mean, the operator that you must have been for Gymboree and all these other brands.
Well,
That's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, you know, I guess, yeah, I guess your network, you know, pays off sometimes, and, you know.
Yes, it does.
So after Gymboree, what retail?
So after Gymboree, was really in private equity. So that would have been Rave G&G, and then I went and worked at Scoop NYC, which was, you know, more of a designer specialty store. There, it was pretty small, comparatively speaking, and from there did Wet Seal and then Rue 21.
No way.
Yeah.
So that's actually something I've thought about quite a bit. Is there? I'd imagine there's a lot of overlap between private equity and being a CEO. Obviously, seeing the whole finance side. Tell the audience a little bit about how some of those overlap. What are some differences? What were some things that were new to you when you went on the merchandising side, as the president and CEO?
Yeah, well, the merchandising side is really interesting because you're basically the business owner of whatever product line you're involved with. You know, so if you're the junior buyer at a department store, you sort of own the junior business, and you
Yeah.
have to, you know, invest in products that you think you're going to sell for a high margin, and, you know, sell a lot of, you know, so that you can make your sales plan and your profit plan. And, you know, you pretty much learn about, you know, the basic, you know, buy low, sell high, do it fast. And, you know, when, you know, as you grow in your career there, you get exposed to a little bit more on the, you know, profit and loss statement, but in very general terms. When I went into private equity, you know, it was sort of baptism by fire on, you know, the whole financial side of the equation.
Oh, yeah.
And I really didn't know what I didn't know, and I had to learn a lot. But it was incredible because it rounded out my understanding
Yeah.
on, you know, a total business, not just the merchandising side of the business,
Yeah.
you know, and not just the profit and loss and income
Forecasting
statement.
and everything else.
Yeah, but the balance sheet
That's
and,
right.
and
Yeah,
you know, the
cash
whole
flow.
equation. And also in private equity, you get exposed to a whole bunch of different companies. And so you see different strategies, and you can see that different strategies work. You know, there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, you know, to everything.
Yeah.
And that's pretty exciting because it helps you, you know, sort of think more clearly about, you know, the strategy of a business, and that there are multiple levers that you can work with in order to, you know, improve a business.
How have you seen buying change through the years? From being a buyer back when you were, and now you have your merchants on your team doing the same thing now at Backcountry. How's that
Ooh,
changed?
that's a great question.
Well, I think the big change in buying has been vertical retail. You know, companies designing their own products and taking them to retailers designing their own products and taking them to market themselves. That was really the big change. So, in the early days, you just went to market and you selected items that other people were designing, and you made the decision to buy them and present them in your store. So at Backcountry, we do a lot of business with third-party brands. So our merchants go, to the brands and look at what they're offering and decide what is going to be best for the Backcountry customer. But we also have our own brands, the Backcountry Gear and Apparel brand, the GOAT, that's been a very important strategy for us, and it's great because our merchants really know what our customers want, so that they can take that information combined with the information that our gearheads give us. And our merchants are also gearheads in their own right. They're out doing the thing that they're buying for. So all of that information goes into helping them determine what our customers need in the brand that we are building. So that's a big change.
Let's take a break from this episode and talk about our sponsor, Volcanic Retail. If you're a retail buyer and you have been using Pinterest or Instagram to find your brands, you probably know how difficult it is to narrow down your search. Volcanic Retail is the first B2B platform, so you can quickly pop in all the specs you're looking for, whether it's margin or case pack, country of origin, DUNS number, women-owned brands, or whatever you're looking for. You can quickly search through all of them. Get rid of 100 brands that aren't applicable and let it just speak to the 3 or 4 that you really should be honing in on. Now that we've heard from our sponsor, let's get back to the episode.
When you're looking on bringing on a category manager, if you could give a weight to an allocation to some of these different buyers and say, hey, I have an option to either choose one that's very analytical based or one that's very passionate and a gearhead. Is there any sort of preference that
Very good question.
that you would feel like is more important than the other?
It's absolutely the passion.
The passion.
Yeah, that's absolutely really knowing the thing.
Fascinating.
Because that a lot of that is sort of an internal mechanism that you know because you've done it and you see it and you can relate to it. In most companies, the merchants have partners that are planners, and the planners are far more analytic. So it allows you to lean into the passion and the gut of a merchant, but balance them with the great analytical skills of the planners.
Who would you say you are? Where's the balance in there?
It's very interesting because I've been tested multiple times, and I am very right and left brain balanced.
Wow.
Oh,
okay.
very
So
interesting.
I have
You're the best of everyone.
I have as much fun hanging out with the designers and
That's
talking
really
design as I do hanging out with my CFO looking at spreadsheets. It's
that
really
is
weird.
so
That's-
incredible.
No, that's
So the outdoor industry is so unique on its own. It's a very tight knit group, and really there's a lot of standards and a lot of policies that are very important to the outdoor industry, and even launching a brand, attending hip camps and getting to know the actual users and influencers is really key to launching a brand in the outdoor space. When a lot of other times in some of these other channels, like consumer electronics, a lot of times it's the idea and the concept and the patents are key. And really in outdoor, a lot of it is keeping your ear to the ground of what the customers really want.
I can see that, actually. Yeah.
I bet it's been pretty fascinating to watch the trends in the outdoor industry. And as you kind of analyze it on the previous 5 years and where you feel like outdoors going over the next 5 years, where would you say that it's trending?
Well, I mean, the industry was actually on a pretty nice upswing going into COVID, and then COVID was like a match to gasoline for that outdoor industry.
Oh yeah.
Nobody had anything else to do, frankly. You
That's
know,
right.
and most of the activities that we do, you can do alone or together with friends, but you're 6 feet apart, and
That's right.
and you can have a great time. So that was a big accelerant, and since then things have calmed down quite a bit, because everybody bought their bikes in tents, during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
They don't necessarily need a new one every year. But I think what's exciting about the outdoors and the industry in and of itself is that we're constantly looking at ways to improve the technology and improve making people, comfortable and safe, in the outdoors. And, we love what we do, so we want everybody to do it with us. And, it's important to have that technology for, the experts and the people that are doing the highest level of pursuit, but also not be so intimidating that, someone who might be, new feels comfortable and feels like, they can be part of the crowd. And that's really exciting.
Something that I just want to put a plug in here for you. I work with a lot of brands. I'm in venture capital, and brands that are trying to either get into backcountry or do have partnerships with backcountry. They speak so highly of you, and to Jeremy's point, the care that they can feel, that it matters, the diversity of the team and the values of the team and the values of the company, that they're up front and center, and there's care behind everything that you do, and they all notice that. They love it.
Well, I mean, it's a phenomenal industry, and it's a phenomenal brand, and I consider myself a steward of the brand. And I love mentoring the people that are in the company that are passionate about the outdoors and passionate about the brand and passionate about their careers. And it's a great place to be. And look, business is difficult. I mean, no matter what year it is or what time it is, business is challenging. And the most important thing that we have is the partnerships that we have in the industry. And I think we have to take those partnerships very seriously and treat them with care, because if we can build a bond together, we can solve the biggest problems together. And there's no reason for us to be antagonistic about it at all. We're all in the same boat, and we have to figure out how to row in the same direction. So
Let's talk outdoor retailer for a moment. It's outdoor retailer was in Salt Lake for a long time, then went out to Colorado, and now they're back to Salt Lake. And there is kind of a show that I've done a lot, but it seems like a feeling that people are excited to be back to Utah, simply because of like the demo days being so close to the mountains, being able to go up to the lakes instead of driving in for a while. Has it been a pretty good experience, obviously being the CEO of Backcountry, located in Utah, to have them back here?
Yes, I mean, I would say COVID changed things pretty dramatically. And the trade shows are really trying to recover because everybody got used to doing everything online. But I would be lying if I said that the proximity isn't an advantage for us. Of course it is.
Oh, sure.
But we are going to go wherever we need to go to find the best gear and apparel for our customers.
So you've got some big outdoor brands, headquartered or have big presences here, like Black Diamond and Petzl and Cotopaxi. And tell us about your relationships with them. Has it been fun as a community to get to know some of these big brands that are big staples of the outdoor space?
Well, I mean, my merchants are the ones that do most of the interfacing with the brands, and they have very deep relationships with the brands. It's been great to get to know, the brands and to get to know the founders and, the CEOs. And, that's always a fun part of the job. But we're, honestly, not doing the day-to-day, communication that really falls on the, on the merchants and the marketers.
Who's a brand that you feel like is doing it right? One that you feel like from like an ethical perspective and from a branding perspective and just from a trend perspective, you're like, you know what? You should keep an eye on them.
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned Cotopaxi, and I think they're one of the, a good success story in the last, 5 years. They have a great mission. They make a nice product. You see it all over the place. We like to think that we're doing really well with our backcountry gear and apparel brand, and I love seeing goats in the wild. That's what I call it.
That's
when
right.
I see people wearing a goat.
That's right.
Love seeing that. But there are a lot of people doing, good things, in the outdoors. And anymore, brands that aren't traditional outdoor brands are leaning into the outdoors as well.
That's absolutely true. And there's a lot of innovation in the outdoor space. Some of these other channels we kind of look at, and there's a little, it doesn't lend itself to as much innovation, like hardware and farm and ranch or whatever it is. Once you've developed something, typically there's not a whole lot of room you can go.
You have had so much experience. When you came to backcountry, I'd be curious if you had something that you would say you tweaked a little bit. From your experience, what did you, or did you improve a little bit at backcountry?
Nature's Fusions, the Nutra brand of dietary supplements, focuses on providing the most absorbable, highest bioavailable longevity supplements on the market, backed by science. Their goal is to help people live better longer. Some of their top products include NMNH, which is a brand new to market replacement for the extremely popular longevity supplement NMN. NMNH has been shown to be up to 25 times more effective than regular NMN. Another product is their patent-pending Narrow NAC, which is 20 times more bioavailable than normal NAC. It's clinically shown to boost the antioxidant glutathione by 10 to 20 times more than any other supplement in the world. Head over to naturesfusions.com to learn more.
Well, I mean, I think what we were all dealing with during COVID was really trying to get the right inventory. I mean, there was a massive supply disruption.
Yeah.
And so we put a lot of energy behind, algorithms driving inventory, purchasing and replenishment. And we also took a look at, how the customer experiences the outdoors. And, I talk all the time about, there's 10,000 people who live in Park City, and I'm rounding numbers, but 10,000 people who live in Park City and 600,000 who visit.
Wow.
And, we need to, make sure that, we can appeal, to both. And we're a company of experts, and, we lead with expertise, but we want to be inclusive, and so making sure that, we are inclusive and that we're not, unapproachable. It's very important for us to be, very approachable, like the person that you would depend on to ask the information about, that's the person that we are. But also there's more to the mountains than just the performance on the mountain. It's what people, how you wake up in the morning and you're going to do some activity, but you may not know exactly whether you're going to bike or hike, and you're going to go meet friends, at Harvest or Five Seeds for breakfast, and then you're going to make a plan. And so we talk about how, particularly the apparel side of the business goes from, breakfast to on mountain to off mountain, and what that looks like, so that we're dealing with the whole person and the lifestyle associated with the activities, not just the activities.
I feel like I'm starting to see a couple channels merge a little bit with, specialty natural, like Expo West, with the outdoors. Like I feel like every time I go to Outdoor Retailer, there's more overlap with brands that exist at both categories.
Yeah.
And both are extremely fast-growing categories. Like outside of pet, I mean, they're two of the fastest growing. You've got, specialty that's that is consistently year over year put out more retail doors than I think anybody else. And like what you said, like during COVID, everything's peaked. It used to be back in the day that outdoor was, with brands like Patagonia, was the idea of going out for a week and going deep into the mountains. And now it's a lot more accepting for like weekend warriors.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like how Europe does it, right? The outdoors, where it's, okay, I've got a car right here and I'm just going to throw up a tent right here. But it feels like that's kind of a white space that's been closing up a little bit here in the outdoor world.
Well, we do both. I
Yeah.
mean, we can get you on, the most epic expedition, that you would ever want to go on.
Yep.
But, everybody starts as a beginner.
You do.
So, that's a really important component. I would say the other thing that has been really fun and interesting over the course of the last 4 years has been really engaging content and, providing, engaging content, for the consumer. We've been, doing a lot with our long-form videos and short-form videos
Very
and
smart.
blogs, and they've been super interesting, and the team has just done a phenomenal job. And, we have a lot of
Your
people.
educational base, you're
Yep.
telling people
Yeah.
what they need to, and that's kind of what's intimidating sometimes about outdoor, is sometimes, if you didn't grow up in it, but you have a desire to go in it, and you've never fly fished before, the last thing you kind of want to do is go into a fly fishing shop and ask for the, from the very beginning, because you feel like an idiot. But it's really nice when you have experts to go to that kind of take you from ground zero all the way up.
Yeah, we just launched, we are doing some guides now that, we're a camping guide, a running guide,
No
a
way.
climb guide, and, it's sort of soup to nuts. And, they've been adopted incredibly well by the customer, which has been really nice to
Wow.
see.
Is Backcountry asset light? Do you stock inventory, or is it when you pick? So okay,
We
So
stock the inventory.
You do.
Yes.
So are your fulfillment houses throughout the country?
We have one here in Salt Lake, and we have one in Virginia.
Oh, you do. Good. So you can hit 2-day shipping pretty
Yep,
quick.
pretty much.
Oh, that's really
Yep,
nice.
across
So
the
she can be
country.
closer to Atlanta. And
That's right.
Yes.
Get your-
That's
get
right.
your- So what are some things that your merchants look for and you as a CEO look for when onboarding different brands, as far as the personalities and the passions of some of their human capital?
I mean, I think the merchants have their eye towards performance.
Yeah.
That matters. Quality matters. The brand stories also matter, and more. They seem to carry a lot of weight there as well. But the merchant's job is to really comb the world and find the brands and the products that are going to enable our customers to get outside with confidence and in comfort, and to feel safe, and that's what they do.
Wow. So as you kind of look at some of your history in fashion apparel and through Backcountry, are there some moments where you're like, wow, this is something that really taught me something very valuable? This is a situation or an experience that I had when I was with Rue 21 or whoever it is, Urban Outfitters, where you're like, wow, it didn't go the way that I anticipated, but it was a very good learning lesson.
Every day. I mean, I think that's what's the beauty about the retail industry in general,
Yeah.
is that every day, presents a different set of circumstances and a different set of inputs that, you have to manage around. Certainly, I would say Urban Outfitters probably taught me more about the creative side of the business,
Yes, for sure.
than any other company. They put creativity at the forefront, and they very much protect the ability for the team to be creative, and that's really game changing. A lot of companies have taught me a lot about what to do or not to do. Managers have taught me, what I don't want to be and what I do want to be.
Yeah.
But I do learn every day. And I mean, COVID was, a lesson that, I don't think anybody who's been in retail for any period of time has ever seen anything like that.
No, it's crazy.
So it was, really just solving complex problems, every day, and we're still sort of solving them.
So
Yeah.
get me in your head here just a minute. You're talking about COVID and the massive supply, shortages that had happened for long periods of time. As a CEO and as somebody who's forecasting, do you let that scare you off where you feel like I have to really stock up all the time, or can the company not afford that, where you're like, we've got to be more lenient? Where's the balance here?
That was the question I woke up every day asking myself. And, at the end of the day, you have to have enough products to sell.
Yeah.
And you have to have the right products to sell. And yet, during that supply chain crisis, you couldn't predict when anything was going to be here, and so you sort of did have to make decisions that you were going to, buy more than what you needed in order to have enough to sell.
Yeah.
And people were doing that. It wasn't just a backcountry thing. Everybody in the, in the country and maybe even the world was trying to do that. And then, when that stopped, then you had to manage, okay, now I have too much, and what am I going to do with that? So it definitely challenged, me as a CEO. It challenged all of my merchants, all of my planners, all of my, finance folks, and it challenged all of my vendor partners. It challenged UPS and Federal Express. It, it challenged everybody. But that's where sitting down with your partners and really, speaking openly and honestly and with care about how are we going to manage through this situation, because it's an us thing.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where, the partnerships really shine through.
Is it just communication, or would you say there's other practices that you've now kind of adopted since COVID that you realize if we had, looked at this, or maybe we're going to keep that, even though it's not COVID necessarily right now, but we're going to keep some of these practices?
It's always communication. And
Yeah.
I would say, in the last 20 years, with email and text messaging taking the majority, of the communication lines, that's not the best way to communicate. It was getting on the phone or on a Zoom call and speaking voice to voice and face to face. And, really being willing to discuss the challenges and the opportunities. And, that has been, tried and true since the beginning of time, I feel. But it's been hard, to convince, especially, the younger generations that, that voice-to-voice communication really makes a difference, because it's so easy to fire off an email and think, okay, now I've
Yes.
had that. I've checked the box, I had that conversation.
It's off my plate.
But
sent
it's a
the
one.
email.
Yeah, it's one-sided. You just had a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't really. It's hard to have the dialogue, the real problem-solving dialogue via email, because there's considerations and compromises that go in, and you can accelerate those much faster and without as much drama, by just dealing with it voice to voice. So I would get on the phone, with the CEO, my CFO and I would get on the phone, and talk to brands about, wow, we have so much demand, we can't keep up with it, and we need more, and how are we going to be able to
That's
get
right.
more, and at what point, and what do you need from us to ensure that, we can get more, and, how can we assure you? And, the flip side of that is, okay, maybe we have too much and, we need to work through this. And, so those were very important conversations.
When you kind of look at the categories that backcountry carries, are there some that you feel like are some of your best drivers, ones that you feel like this is really a big, major part of who we are?
Well, I mean,
There's
we
a
were
lot.
founded by an Olympic skier and his partner,
Yeah.
so I would have to say,
That's always gonna be-
ski and snowboard is up there.
I think you're the #1 snowboard export. Am I correct on that?
I think we're
You're
we're
Right there.
definitely
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But, hiking and camping, really big sports for us, and biking. We do a tremendous bike business.
Where do you see the white space coming from in the whole outdoor industry combined? Where do you feel like, the white space is going to be over the next 5 years? We've seen a lot of big trends come and go. I remember going to Outdoor Retailer one of those first years when paddleboards was there, and then 2 years later there was 50 different paddleboard exhibitors. I know it's very difficult to predict, but where do you feel like is a good place to if you're an entrepreneur that's starting an outdoor business, where do you think is a good spot?
Well, I would say that outdoor, has changed a lot.
Yeah.
There's a more modern approach to it, and it's no longer, sort of a different part of your life. I think everything is, sort of more seamless and integrated these days.
Yeah.
And, I think what you're really looking to do is understand, the customer and understand what that customer need is. If it's a new activity, okay, great, you can ride that boom. But it's really, and we've seen this in, athletic wear, where we've seen some, big athletic brands be worn, really emerging athletic brands like Lululemon or Fiore be worn in everyday life, and it's the same thing with outdoor. We sell very high quality performance products, right? And they're built to last.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't need to be relegated to only on mountain experiences, so we love the idea that some of these items can be multi-use.
Well, I'll tell you, case in point, it'd been a while since I had been to a Dillard's, and last time I was in Dillard's, they had only like the Izod shirts, and then I went back there, a year ago, and it just looked like one big backcountry.com store. There was nothing but almost outdoor brands in the entire Dillard's.
And I bet the brand, or I guess the advertisement above, maybe the shirts say, from gym to the grocery store.
That's right.
Or something like
it's
that.
multi-purpose, kind of like we were talking about.
Yeah, but in the hard products, everybody's innovating around, sort of how to do things better. And whether that's from a sustainability perspective,
Sure.
which is really
It's a big
important,
focus.
a durability perspective, when you're out in the wild, what you need to communicate and, for comfort, for warmth, those types of things. The bike technology has just, gotten, really advanced, with carbon and, the weights of these bicycles, it just
Lighter
is
and lighter.
shocking
Yes.
how light they are.
Oh, I know. It's unbelievable.
So it's great that we're in an industry that just continues to innovate
Yep.
and continues to think of ways to do things, better, but also has a mind towards, what it's doing and what it means for our planet.
We've seen a lot of movement the past decade to younger category managers and buyers, whose background, a lot of it was growing up with Tinder, right? And knowing social and knowing all about Instagram and and now it's TikTok, right? How much of their purchasing actually comes from finding brands that have a strong social presence?
That's a hard question for me to answer because I don't have stats, but we definitely, see the importance of, Instagram and TikTok and social media. I know myself, I've discovered a lot of great brands, through social media, and I do a lot of discovery there. So it's just part of the conversation with the customer. At the end of the day, it's all about the customer and how you're presenting yourself to the customer and how you're communicating with the customer, and you want to be where the customer is, and they're on Instagram and they're on TikTok.
When you were a fashion apparel buyer and you were purchasing for different categories, were you more on the pioneering of products, or were you more of a safe buyer? There was those numbers driven, and I guess a follow-up to that question is, are there any brands that you were proud of that you brought on that later ended up doing well and you thought, you know what, I was a part of this?
So the first part of the question is yes and. I mean, I was definitely a pioneer because it's newness, you know, that gets people excited.
Yep.
But, you know, very much, you know, an architect of, you know, how much is just enough and not too much.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a hard balance to strike. And I often say we're always wrong. We just want to be wrong in the right direction.
Yeah.
No one ever bought the right amount of anything.
That's exactly right.
But, you know, the second part is, I would say what I'm probably most proud of is figuring out that in many cases, starting at Wet Seal and certainly at Urban Outfitters, the market wasn't providing us with you know, some of the things that I thought that my customers would be interested in. So we made them ourselves.
Oh, interesting.
And, you know, when you see that product that you literally said, you know, let's do this.
Yes.
You know, you see it on
shelf.
someone's body,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, oh my God, you know,
I
look
was
at
a part of
that.
this.
That was me. And, you know, and I think that's how the whole backcountry team feels about, you know, when we're out on the mountain and we see, you know, a bunch of, you know, people wearing our stuff.
Wow.
It's like, oh, wow, you know, that's incredible. Like, and you know how much thought you put into that
Yes.
and how much energy and effort you put into that. And you hope that people see that and appreciate it. So
Yeah.
when they do and when they're wearing it, it's like a giant, you know, thank you.
Makes you
Wow.
very
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
You are fantastic for coming on.
Oh my goodness.
An unbelievable story, unbelievable experience. Backcountry is an incredible company, but they're lucky to have you.
But an operator and a designer, you know, I'm waiting for you to say, I designed the first, you know, skort or something.
That's right.
Well, there are a lot of things that I did well, and there are a lot of things that ended up on the markdown rack as well. So, you know, no one bats 1,000,
learn.
but
Yes.
I've been very lucky, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Well, thank you so much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.